Grateful to President Trump for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve our country as the Director of National Intelligence at a time when trust in the intelligence community, unfortunately, is at an all-time low. Chuck Schumer admitted a few years ago, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you."
Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. If you take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get at you. And that's true. Look at what we saw with Trump in his previous term.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. And let's not forget the, 51 former intelligence agents that determined that there's Russian propaganda with the laptop, all that crap, right?
Hunter Biden.
Yep. And yeah, all that stuff. All right, guys. So what we have for you today is Tulsi Gabbard's Senate confirmation hearing, where she faced some pretty stiff resistance. Let's just say that. It was not pretty, in my opinion.
From Republicans and Democrats.
Both of them, yeah. As a matter of fact, our one of our senators here in Indiana, Todd Young, changed his vote. Apparently after a closed-door meeting with Elon Musk, which is interesting. That's just that's very interesting. Now, I do know that there are people who were calling his office, telling him to confirm Tulsi. I don't know how many.
There's no reason why she shouldn't be confirmed.
There's no reason she should not be confirmed. All right, so let's get into this, guys. Our first clip is from 2:59, so right before the 3-minute mark. And that's going to go to 10:34 from our buddy Tom Cotton from Arkansas. He's the chair of the Intelligence Committee and has some good stuff to say a lot of the time, in my opinion. Not perfect, but perfection is unattainable. Overall, I'm a fan of Tom Cotton. What about you?
He's all right.
Yeah, he's okay. There's room for improvement.
Okay.
He's okay. He's all right.
He was almost going to be the Secretary of State, but he turned it down.
Really? That is interesting.
Or Defense Secretary.
Defense Secretary. Interesting. Okay. All right, guys, let's get into this. Shawn has picked out the most crucial, most important timestamps. The first clip is rather long, but I think it sets the stage and really gets us into it. So without further ado, here we go.
Everyone to this hearing on President Trump's nomination of Tulsi Gabbard to be the Director of National Intelligence. Ms. Gabbard, welcome to the Senate Intelligence Committee. I also want to welcome your family in attendance today, including your husband, Abraham, your mother, Carol, and your sister, friend Dobbin. I also want to acknowledge some very special friends of yours, Dakota Myers and Pat Payne, both Medal of Honor recipients.
Whoa.
Gentlemen, on behalf of the grateful nation, I extend my deepest thanks to you and the heroes with whom you served.
Hell yes. Yep. I agree. Doesn't get any more awesome than that, man. Like, seriously, Medal of Honor recipients are... There was an episode, I'm going to pause it really briefly. It was an episode of NCIS. Have you ever seen that show?
I haven't.
Where they're dealing with a guy who was a Medal of Honor recipient for World War II, and he's getting older and his memory's getting bad. And it was a very powerful episode. It was either first or second season, but it says in the description something about Medal of Honor. I'll find the episode. You should find it. It's well worth watching, and it actually sheds a lot of light on like the process for Medal of Honor, what's involved, and it's a lot. It's a lot.
Our next Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is joining.
There we go.
I also note that our next Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is joining us. Apparently, she didn't have enough fun at her own confirmation hearing. Ms. Bondi, welcome and congratulations. And
she got it right.
And finally,
not final
Senator
confirmation,
Joni
but
Ernst,
made it through the
former
committee.
Senator and chairman of this committee.
I don't think she was confirmed yet.
So she hasn't been confirmed yet, but they got the
passed out of
votes or
committee.
something. Okay. I know there's a process, but isn't there like 2, or is it more than 2 hearings that they have to go through?
It depends. Every nominees different.
Okay.
Most of the time, it's just one, but I think she just went through one.
Okay. So most of
RFK
the time,
Jr. is the only one that I know of that had to do 2 hearings.
yeah, which is weird, right?
It was weird.
Richard Burr will introduce Ms. Gabbard shortly. We look forward to your remarks. I think it's
Well-
fair to say that Ms. Gabbard's nomination has generated a bit more interest and attention than do most nominees.
Yeah, it has. Go ahead.
Pam Bondi was just confirmed by the Senate 12 minutes ago.
Okay, so Pam Bondi is now the
officially
Attorney General, right,
yeah.
of the United States of America. All right, we got Bondi through. Have there been any that have not made it?
Nope, all of them made it. So
All
far.
of them so far have made it, right? Okay, but you're concerned about RFK Jr.'s one. You think that's going to be an issue,
And Tulsi might be.
and Tulsi might be. All right, here we go.
Before this committee. But I want to stress that Ms. Gabbard has been and will be treated with the exact same respect, consideration, and professionalism that we extended to every nominee.
And she should be.
No more,
should
no
be.
less.
Yep,
No better, no worse.
yep.
Uh-huh.
That's how we treated CIA Director John Ratcliffe just 2 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and how we have treated DNI nominees like Avril Haines and Dan Coates in the past.
Indiana's own.
For
Dan
instance,
Coates.
Ms. Gabbard has conducted dozens of office meetings with senators.
Mhm.
She has completed the committee's standard questionnaire. She has answered 247 questions in writing. This is all in keeping with the committee's customs, precedents, and rules.
That's a lot.
That is.
Before I
That's a
address the
lot.
important work ahead at the DNI, please also let me make 2 observations about some of the accusations about Ms. Gabbard. First,
Dude.
I'm dismayed by the attacks on Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and her loyalty to our
Yes.
country.
It's ridiculous.
For instance, Hillary
It's
Clinton has
ridiculous.
smeared Ms. Gabbard, calling her an asset
Yeah.
of a foreign nation.
Mhm.
Let me remind everyone that Ms. Gabbard has served in our Army for more than 2 decades.
Thank you.
She has multiple combat tours,
Mhm.
and she still wears the uniform to this day.
Mhm.
She has undergone 5 FBI background checks.
5.
I spent
right?
more than 2 hours last week reviewing the latest, putting eyes on more than 300 pages. It's clean as a whistle.
Right.
She'd
It's
have to
fine
be.
that we have differences of opinions on policies and programs. I suspect some of my Republican colleagues might disagree with some of Mrs. Gabbard's votes in the House of Representatives.
I do.
I do. Yeah.
Just as I suspect that some of my Democratic colleagues might criticize Ms. Gabbard's statements and actions since she saw the light and left the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But I sincerely hope that no one today will impugn Ms. Gabbard's patriotism and integrity.
Right.
Second,
But they do.
I can only laugh
Spoiler alert.
some critics who say that Ms. Gabbard has unconventional views. No doubt she has some unconventional views,
Mhm.
like her criticism of Barack Obama's regime change interventions in Egypt and Libya.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But guess what? I opposed the disastrous interventions in Egypt and Libya as well.
A lot of people
Me
do.
Mubarak
too.
was a longtime American partner, and Egypt was a linchpin
And
of our
Mubarak
security
wasn't a
system
good
in the
guy,
Middle
but
East.
he brought peace.
Gaddafi had been scared straight
Uh-huh.
after
Yeah.
we toppled the Taliban and Saddam Hussein.
Yep.
He turned over his weapons of
He
mass
did.
destruction and
Mhm.
cooperated against terrorists. In return, we had lifted sanctions
Yep.
and reestablished diplomatic ties. But President Obama intervened to topple both regimes.
Benghazi.
And what came next?
Mm-hmm.
The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt
Yep.
and dangerous chaos in Libya
Yep.
Yep.
to this
Yep.
day. No one ever mistook Mubarak or Gaddafi as the little sisters of the poor.
Yeah,
But let's
they
not kid
weren't.
ourselves.
Right.
The world is a dangerous place, not a church picnic.
That's true.
Ms. Gabbard understands this, which is why she also saw the problem with regime change interventions in these places. The vast number of governments throughout history and still today are not democratic. We may wish it were different and we can work to improve it,
Yeah.
but that's the way the world is.
Yep.
If we only befriended nations that shared our system of government and our social and cultural sensibilities, well, we wouldn't have many friends.
Yeah, that's true.
In a fallen world, we have to take our friends where we find them.
Mm-hmm.
No question, stable democracies make the most stable friends, but what matters in the end is less whether a country is democratic or non-democratic, and more whether the country is pro-American or anti-American.
I agree with that.
I'll confess that those views may be somewhat unconventional, but look at where conventional thinking has got us. Maybe Washington could use a little more unconventional thinking.
Right?
And I'm sure that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence could use more unconventional thinking.
Yep.
Ms. Gabbard, I submit that if confirmed, the measure of your success will largely depend on whether you can return the ODNI to its original size, scope, and mission. When Congress created the ODNI, we intended to put one office in charge to manage the different agencies of the intelligence community. Congress intended the ODNI to be a very lean organization that would use small staffs to execute specific tasks.
Yeah.
Congress.
Realistically, you don't need a big staff with
it was-
DNI.
It was created after 9/11.
Yeah, it was to basically give a linchpin for all the intelligence coming in. An individual office that's in charge of all the intel that reports directly to the president.
And the problem they say with 9/11 was that these different
Intel
agencies weren't talking to each
right.
other.
Yeah, they weren't communicating allegedly.
So they wanted to have somebody to be able to communicate.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think the Office of DNI is a good concept. It's just grown.
It has
so big.
In no way wanted
like
yet
everything
another
else.
unruly bureaucracy layered on top of an already bureaucratic intelligence community. Unfortunately, 20 years later, that's exactly what the ODNI has become. Incredibly, the ODNI now has is now larger than any agencies it was established to manage.
What?
It has 15 offices and centers, which have many subunits within them. The ODNI staff is measured in the thousands when it should be measured in the dozens or maybe a few hundred.
Maybe.
I promise that's going to change.
Correct.
I intend to get personnel at the ODNI back to their home agencies doing real intelligence work, not bureaucratic make work.
Good.
I also expect to cap the size of the ODNI. Ms. Gabbard, if confirmed, I hope you'll be a partner in these vital efforts.
Okay. I mean, I'm on the same page with Senator Cotton here so far. Oh God. Our next clip is Senator Warren from Massachusetts. All right. It'll be all right. It'll be okay. All right. It's only 3 minutes of
No, it's Warner. He's from Virginia. It's not Warren.
It says Senator Warren, D-MA. Come on, Shawn.
I screwed that up.
That's all right. Okay, so we're going.
He's the vice chair.
Yeah, I was going to say. All right, so 1346 is where we're going.
That was a Shawn mistake.
Yeah, that's okay. Warner.
Yeah, Warner from Virginia.
Warner from Virginia. Okay. Warner from Virginia. 3 minutes, 1346 to 1653. Here we go.
Nominated you to be Director of National Intelligence. Most folks probably don't understand the importance of this position. If confirmed, you would lead 18 agencies of the IC. You'll also serve as the principal advisor to the President, the National Security Council, and the Homeland Security Council for all intelligence matters related to national security. And in this role, you'll be responsible for over $100 billion between the National Intelligence Program and the Military Intelligence Program, or the NIP and the MIP as we call them here. It's a position of great importance and significance to our national security, created after one of our worst national security failures, 9/11. For that reason, when Congress established this position, thanks in large part to our colleague and our friend Susan Collins, it mandated in law that any individual nominated for this position must have, and I quote, extensive national security expertise. Now, I appreciate.
Okay, so, but here's the thing. What does that mean? Extensive national security expertise. That's like must have experience at X, right? as far as I'm concerned, she has massive national
Yeah.
security experience because she's actively been on the front lines in war. She's commanded troops. Anyway,
She's been in
Appreciate you
Congress.
taking the time
right.
to meet with me. And as I noted in that office, both before and after, I continue to have significant concerns about your judgment
Oh, I'm sure he does.
and your qualifications to meet the standards set by law.
Why? Because she called out the chosen one, Harris.
First, as I noted previously, the DNI was created in part to make sure we had appropriate intelligence sharing, which prior to 9/11, obviously we haven't. But the mission also is to not only share information between the IC, but also with our
Intelligence
allies.
community.
There's no legal requirement that our allies share intelligence with us.
True.
It's all predicated on trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that our allies will protect each other's secrets. It appears to me you have repeatedly excused our adversaries' worst actions,
Oh, here we
and
go.
instead often blame them on the United States and those very allies.
Is that right? Or we got another
I
minute?
think it's
Another
a little
minute.
bit
Sorry.
For
more.
example,
One more minute.
you blame NATO for Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah.
You rejected the conclusion that Assad used
That's a
chemical
pretty
weapons
common-
in Syria, despite
So, yeah. So go
That's a
ahead.
common theory.
It is like, here's the thing. Even Russian diplomats have stated it was the encroachment by NATO after promising, by the way, you guys really should look it up. NATO swore they would not move any further east than their current
Uh-huh.
boundaries, right? The current countries that were in NATO, and then started courting Ukraine to join NATO. What the hell is Russia supposed to do, man?
I'm not a fan of Russia. I never
No.
will be, but yes, you are 100% correct.
Right. What? Right. I'm not excusing any invasions and I'm not excusing any deaths ever. But as a country, as the leader of a country, your concerns have to be for that country.
Yeah. And Putin cares for Russia.
Everything he does is for Russia. I mean, whether we agree with it or not, and whether we think he could have made better decisions, that's open for debate. But ultimately, he makes the choices that he thinks are best for Russia, the same way that our alleged leaders are supposed to do for us. They're going to go into that whole, but she said all kinds of stuff.
Uh-huh.
despite it being the unanimous assessment of the then Trump administration's DOD, State Department, and IC, as well as the assessment of our European allies. Instead, you blame the United States for supporting terrorist groups in Syria.
Now, I don't know about that whole thing, especially like what he's talking about her saying this and her this happening. But I'll say this regarding the gas attacks, right? I don't care what these so-called intel agencies say. I don't care. They've lied to us countless times.
Uh-huh.
It makes no sense for Assad to use chemical weapons on his own people on the day of an inspection.
True.
The-
And he knew there would be consequences.
the-
Yeah.
I'm not
Unless
saying
he's
he didn't
insane.
do it. Let me be clear. I'm not saying he didn't do that. What I'm saying is I don't understand the thought process if he did that. And that's what she was talking about. I do know that. She was like, the timing here is super weird. That's all.
Now, I don't know if your intent in making those statements was to defend those dictators, or
wasn't.
if you were simply
No.
unaware of the intelligence and how your statements would be perceived. In either case, it raises, at least for this senator, serious questions about your judgment. It also leads me to question whether you can develop the trust necessary to give our allies confidence that they can share their most sensitive intelligence with us.
Okay. So far, blah, 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 but I don't hear any real reasons why she wouldn't be safe. Like in that regard, share allies to share intelligence with her. Since when has she leaked anything she wasn't supposed to?
Good point. Yeah, she hasn't.
She's never been accused of a security breach, as far as I know, and I wouldn't think
No.
so, given all the background checks that she's gone through. Like, anyway, okay. So our next clip is from Senator Burr, Republican from North Carolina. It's
Former
21
senator. I should put that on there. Former senator.
former Senator
But
Burr.
he's talking in support of her nomination.
So he's not currently a senator. Okay,
He retired.
he retired. Okay, so that. Excuse me, I have the hiccup. Sorry about that.
I should've
2142 to 2407. So about 3 minutes ish. Okay, so hang on, let's just do this. All right. Once again, 2142 to 2407.
We welcome back Senator Richard Burr, the former chairman of this committee who has
Oh,
emerged
okay.
from retirement, to introduce Ms. Gabbard.
Wow.
Yet still in
Yeah.
retirement, he still seems unable to find a pair of socks.
What?
That must be an inside joke.
Nonetheless, we say
What?
thank you and welcome you back.
I didn't
Senator Burr.
understand that
Yeah.
either.
Things are very predictable, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it's got to be an
Chairman
inside joke.
Cotton, Vice Chairman Warner, members of this distinguished committee. I want to thank you for allowing me to join you today to provide my thoughts and support on behalf of Tulsi Gabbard's nomination to be Director of National Intelligence. This is my first visit back to the Senate in slightly over 2 years. Permit me to say, from this side of the dais, you're not as intimidating as I thought when I was on your side of the dais. When I was chairman of this committee, Senator Warner and I stuck to a single refrain with our staff: follow the facts wherever they lead. Today, an anonymous person or group launching a campaign using rumors as sources and accusations as fact
Mhm.
can drive the outcome of an election and of public opinion.
Mhm.
I know it to be true. Remember, I sat in your chair for the Russia investigation, where we found much of the influence to be the result of fictitious
Mhm.
narratives driven by Russia. Now, some of you may be wondering, why do I support Tulsi Gabbard and why am I here to introduce her as a nominee? I've experienced firsthand a coordinated attempt to influence this nominee's support in the United States Senate and with the American people. I was contacted by several national journalists shortly after the president nominated Tulsi, asking me to confirm one of the many rumors circulating about this nominee. I informed each journalist over a 5-week period that the rumors shared with me was simply not true. This narrative was shared from one journalist to the next journalist to the next journalist. I assume today they ran out of journalists. This was a coordinated effort to kill this nomination.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. And make no mistake, guys, like they are spreading absolute lies about Tulsi Gabbard in the hopes that these senators will say no and turn her down.
They're afraid of her because she's going to dismantle the deep state.
Yeah, if you guys are seeing what's going on with
Yeah.
Elon and USAID, that's the wrecking ball. I think that Tulsi's going to be
Uh-huh.
in the ODNI. Like,
Uh-huh.
let's just
And they know it.
they know it exactly. All right, so our next clip is Senator Ernst
From Iowa.
from Iowa, Republican. It's 2808. And guys, the name of this video, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard Senate confirmation hearing to be Director of National Intelligence. Is it C-SPAN?
It's C-SPAN on YouTube.
C-SPAN on YouTube, guys, if you're looking for this whole clip. All right, Senator Ernst, 2808 to 2943. I can't see. Okay. Senator Ernst, Iowa.
So thank you. Duty, honor, service. These are not just words. They are principles that have guided Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard.
Mhm.
As a young enlisted soldier in the Hawaii National Guard, Tulsi answered the call to duty upon her deployments to the Middle East. From graduating at the top of her class from the Accelerated Officer Candidate School at the Alabama Military Academy, the first woman to do so,
Oh,
to serving as
didn't
the
know-
youngest member
know
of
that either
Hawaii's
until I saw this.
legislature.
I didn't know
She
that either.
upheld honor while breaking barriers both in uniform
Mhm.
and in her civilian leadership roles.
Yep.
And today, Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard demonstrates her commitment to service by sitting before this committee, prepared to answer the nation's call yet once again, this time as the next Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi and I share similar backgrounds, both to our nation and to our communities. We've worn the same uniforms, serving in the Army National Guard and Army Reserves, leading battalions and deploying to Iraq and Kuwait.
That's insane, man. I didn't know that she was the first woman to make it through her class.
Yeah, I didn't know
and
that either.
Didn't know she was the youngest person to serve in the
know
Hawaiian
that.
legislature. That's awesome, man. She's a bad girl, man, as far as like, her accomplishments.
Oh yeah.
She killed it. Like, that's what I don't get. And for those of you out there that are like, oh, I'm sure, why didn't he pick a Republican? I think Tulsi is actually the best pick for this office. She was a Democrat for
Yep.
many years, and she's what I would call, I guess, a reasonable Republican, right? It's not one of those, the hard right, everything Trump says is right. He never makes any mistakes. He never does anything wrong. I think she's more like in the middle with, I've learned this. Trump seems to be fighting this. Let's go. What do you think? You got?
I don't really think she's a Republican. She's more of an independent
right
because she
that's
still
what I mean.
has some progressive views.
Oh, sure. But here's the thing. And this is another reason I think she's really good for this role. This is not a policy role.
True.
She can't create laws.
No.
She can't even create executive orders or any of that stuff.
Her only job is to report to the president.
Exactly.
What's going on
Yep.
around the world.
It's to collate or get together, pull together intel and present it to the president. Okay, so we're going to go back to Senator Cotton for 3441 to 3548. So 1 minute. 3441.
And then it goes into Tulsi's opening statement.
And then we'll tackle her opening statement. So a couple seconds before, where are we at? 3441 to 3548.
Senators from the witness table.
Here we go.
Just saying that
Ms.
they can
Gabbard,
leave.
before we move to your opening statement, it is the custom of the committee to ask a series of obligatory questions to all nominees.
Mhm.
First, do you swear or affirm to give this committee your full and truthful testimony?
I do.
Second, do you agree to appear before the committee here or in other venues when invited?
Yes.
Third, if confirmed, do you agree to send officials from your office to appear before the committee and designated staff when invited?
Yes.
Fourth, do you agree to provide documents or any materials requested by the committee in order for it to carry out its oversight and legislative responsibilities? Fifth, will you ensure that your office and your staff provide such material to the committee when requested?
Yes.
Sixth, do you agree to inform and fully brief, to the fullest extent possible, all members of this committee on intelligence activities and covert actions rather than only the chairman and the vice chairman?
Yes.
Thank you for.
Okay. We'll just let it play here in just a second. We're going to go right into Tulsi Gabbard's
Opening statement.
opening statement. And that's 3549 to 4641. So she talks much like
like
my
11
wife,
minutes.
on and on and on. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Tulsi's awesome. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Tulsi, man. Ever since she came out on the presidential stage, or I should say the in the running for president, I've been a big fan, man, at least as far as like if I was going to vote Democrat, right?
Okay.
But I was really surprised by number one, all her accomplishments, and number two, she's had some really good ideas. I followed her for a little bit and watched. Some of it was a little like, no, not really. But some of it was really good. It's very smart, dude. Very, very smart.
She is.
Okay. Here we go. Once again, 35-49 to 46-41.
For those answers, Ms. Gabbard.
Here we go.
We now welcome the opportunity, finally, to hear from you in your own words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I too would like to start by offering my prayers and condolences to those who were killed in last night's horrific crash. Senator Warner, Senator Moran, our condolences and prayers are with you and all of your constituents. Again, Chairman Cotton, Vice Chairman Warner, and all of the members of the committee, it's an honor to be here before you today. I've appreciated the opportunity to meet with so many of you and address your questions and concerns before today's hearing. I know they've gone, but I'm grateful to Senators Burr and Ernst for their trust and their confidence in taking time to join us here today. To my husband, Abraham, my family, friends, fellow veterans, Medal of Honor recipients, and patriots, thank you for your love and support. I'm honored and grateful to President Trump for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve our country as the Director of National Intelligence at a time when trust in the intelligence community, unfortunately, is at an all-time low.
Yes, it
Chuck
is.
Schumer admitted a few years ago, quote, "You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you."
Uh-huh.
For too long, faulty, inadequate, or weaponized intelligence have led to costly failures and the undermining of our national security and God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution.
I agree.
The most obvious example of one of these failures is our invasion of Iraq based upon a total fabrication or complete failure of intelligence.
Yup.
This disastrous decision led to the deaths of tens of thousands of American soldiers, millions of people in the Middle East, mass migration, destabilization, and undermining of the security and stability of our European allies, the rise of ISIS, strengthening of Al-Qaeda and other Islamist jihadist groups, and strengthening Iran. Here are just a few other examples. The American people elected Donald Trump as their president not once, but twice. And yet the FBI and intelligence agencies were politicized by his opponents to undermine his presidency and falsely portray him as a puppet of Putin. Title I of FISA was used illegally to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, using a Clinton campaign-funded false dossier as their so-called evidence.
Yup.
Biden campaign advisor Tony Blinken was the impetus for the 51 former senior intelligence officials' letter dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation specifically to help Biden win the election. Former DNI James Clapper lied to this committee in 2013, denying the existence of programs that facilitated the mass collection of millions of Americans' phone and internet records, yet was never held accountable.
Yep.
Under John Brennan's leadership, the CIA abused its power to spy on Congress, to dodge oversight,
Oh, yeah.
lied about doing it
Forgot
until
about
he
that.
was caught,
Yep.
and yet has never been held responsible.
Yep.
Under Biden, the FBI abused its power for political reasons to try to surveil Catholics who attend traditional Latin Mass,
Which,
labeling them as quote unquote radical traditionalist Catholics.
think about that for a minute. In the United States of America, the FBI has determined somehow that those who attend traditional mass are somehow domestic terrorists.
Yeah, I don't know where they got that from.
Right. It's insane. It's insane.
Personally, just 24 hours after I criticized Kamala Harris and her nomination, I was placed on a secret domestic terror watch list called Quiet Skies. Sadly,
Funny how that
there are
works.
more examples. The bottom line is this must end. President Trump's reelection is a clear mandate from the American people to break this cycle of failure, end the weaponization and politicization of the intelligence community, and begin to restore trust in those who've been charged with the critical task of securing our nation. If confirmed as DNI, I will do my very best to fulfill this mandate and bring leadership to the intelligence community with a laser-like focus on our essential mission, ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. As the President's principal intelligence advisor, I'll begin by leading by example, checking my own personal views at the door, and committing to delivering intelligence that is collected, analyzed, and reported without bias, prejudice, or political influence. I enlisted in the Army because of the horrific terrorist attack on September 11th and volunteered to deploy to Iraq in 2005, where I served in a medical unit. After nearly 22 years in uniform with 3 combat deployments to the Middle East and Africa, I'm now a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, where I serve as a battalion commander of soldiers in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. I served in Congress for 8 years on the Homeland Security, Foreign Affairs, and Armed Services committees. And it's my experience in the military and in the halls of Congress that have given me a deep understanding of the complex challenges that our nation faces, in both roles engaging with world leaders, in both roles being privy to highly classified intelligence.
Yep.
So I know firsthand how essential accurate, unbiased, and timely intelligence is to the President, to Congress, and to our warfighters. I also know the heavy cost of intelligence failures and abuses. Senator Collins, you led the creation of ODNI specifically to address those intelligence failures of 9/11 and Iraq's so-called WMDs. The need for the ODNI under strong leadership still exists today.
I agree.
If confirmed, I'll bring my experience and fresh eyes to leading the intelligence community. And my day one priorities will be to assess the global threat environment, identify where gaps in our intelligence exist, integrate intelligence elements, increase information sharing, and ensure that unbiased, apolitical, objective collection and analysis to support the President and policymakers' decision-making occur. I'll work to end the politicization of the intelligence community and ensure there is a clear mission focus in the IC on its core mission of this unbiased, apolitical collection and analysis of intelligence to secure our nation.
Thank you. Glad
I'll
you
work to
mentioned
rebuild trust through transparency and accountability. This is a national security imperative.
Yeah.
And I'll work to assess and address efficiencies, redundancies, and effectiveness across ODNI to ensure focus of personnel and resources is on our core mission of national security. Now, in my meetings that I've had with many of you, you expressed bipartisan frustration about recent intelligence failures, as well as the lack of responsiveness to your requests for information. Whether it's the surprise October 7th Hamas terrorist attack, to the sudden takeover of Syria by Islamist extremists, failures to identify the source of COVID, anomalous health incidents, UAPs, drones, and more. If confirmed, I look forward to working with you to address these issues. Ensuring the safety, security, and freedom of the American people is a mandate of leadership that rises above partisan politics. If confirmed, my commitment to the President, to you, and to the American people is this: I will do my very best to find the truth, no matter where it leads, and share that truth with President Trump, his advisors, and you in Congress, providing you with that unbiased, timely, and accurate intelligence as you make the tough decisions that'll impact the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. Now, before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country.
Yeah.
Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters.
Right.
The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
I love that line.
I have
And
no
it's true.
love for Assad or Gaddafi or any dictator. I just hate Al-Qaeda. I hate that we have leaders who cozy up to Islamist extremists, minimizing them to so-called rebels. As Jake Sullivan said to Hillary Clinton, quote, Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. Well, Syria is now controlled by an Al-Qaeda offshoot.
Yep.
HTS, led by an Islamist jihadist who danced in the streets on 9/11
Mhm.
and who was responsible for the killing of many American service members.
Mhm.
Democrat senators in the past resorted to anti-Christian bigotry against some of President Trump's judicial nominees like Amy Coney Barrett
Yeah.
and Brian Boucher. I condemn those actions as a Democrat in Congress at the time, as religious bigotry must be thoroughly condemned by all of us, no matter the religion. Unfortunately, there are some Democrat senators who still don't understand the principle of freedom of religion and Article 6 of the Constitution. Quote, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they're once again using the religious bigotry card, but this time trying to foment religious bigotry against Hindus and Hinduism. If anyone is sincerely interested in knowing more about my own personal spiritual path of Hinduism, I welcome you to go to my account on X, where I'll share more on this topic. If confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will continue to live by the oath that I have sworn at least 8 times in my life, both in uniform and as a member of Congress. I will support and defend our God-given freedoms enshrined in the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to your questions.
And I think that particular line is going to become very, very important. All enemies, foreign and domestic. I think we have a lot of domestic enemies who have, and I'm not talking about people who disagree. I'm not talking about, Democrats who just happen to believe differently, right? I'm talking about people who have actively interfered and given aid to enemies of this country.
John Kerry.
Precisely. People like that,
Uh-huh.
they need to be on charges. So I don't want to derail this.
Okay.
But really briefly, so we've heard about these preemptive pardons that Biden handed out, right? For Fauci and a few others. So interestingly enough, constitutional scholars are now saying you can't do that.
Yeah.
That there actually has to be charges before you can issue a pardon.
Uh-huh.
So they're worthless.
I think the Supreme Court's going to have to look at that.
I think so too. It's going to be, like I said, I don't want to derail this, but I recently heard that today and I was like, ooh, that's going to be interesting. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. All right, guys, we're going to move on. Jump ahead 3 minutes to 49-41. And we're going to go to Senator Cotton, 49-41 to 52-02. So a couple minutes.
Yes.
Thank you. Let's move on to the topic of OD&I reform that I mentioned in my opening statement. Congress originally envisioned the OD&I to be a small coordinating agency that directs rather than replicates the now 18 constituent agencies that make up our intelligence community. Over the years, however, the OD&I has strayed from this vision to an organization that now publicly boasts nearly 2,000 people, more than half of whom are not detailed from an intelligence agency, but rather are career OD&I bureaucrats. They've even developed centers that are producing their own analysis. Will you commit today to working with this committee to restoring the OD&I to its original size, scope, and function?
Yes, Senator, I look forward to working with you and the committee as I, if confirmed, assess the current status of who is working in the OD&I and the function that they fulfill to make sure of its effectiveness and elimination of redundancies and bloating.
Thank you. Do you support some of the policy proposals I mentioned in my opening statement about capping the size of the OD&I, eliminating OD&I taxes, returning employees back to their home agencies to do real intelligence work?
Yes, Senator, I look forward to working with you as we assess where the OD&I needs to be in order to fulfill its core mission and function.
Thank you. And in your preparation for this hearing and this important responsibility, have you developed any thoughts that explains the mission creep and the empire building that we've seen at the ODNI in recent years?
Yes, Senator, I've had the opportunity to review the history of the ODNI, to speak to Ambassador Negroponte, the first Director of National Intelligence, as well as others who have served in this position.
Girl did her
I
homework.
think there are a
man.
number of contributing factors to the creation of centers, or not centers, but offices like the recently eliminated Office of DEI within ODNI, and other areas where I need to go in and assess the replication and the duplication of responsibilities that exist elsewhere and some of the other intelligence elements that ODNI has oversight over.
Thank you. Colleagues, I will lead by example and yield back 1 minute of my time and recognize.
Okay, so look, Tulsi did her homework, man. She talked to the first DNI director. Other people who have held the office looked into the history of it. That's what I'm saying. Like, plus, let's be fair here. Let's be 100% transparent and honest, right? She should be a Republican because she's way too hot to be a Democrat. Republican women are more like Tulsi Gabbard than, you know, Pocahontas. I'm just saying.
Or Hillary Clinton.
Or Hillary Clinton. I'm that fan. Yeah, I'm that fan. You can agree or disagree. It's, you know.
I agree.
Okay. So anyway, moving on. We're going to go back to Senator Warner, who's going to cry some more about some stuff, you know, some perceived wrongs. Here we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, sorry. 5203 to 5846. We really need 6.5 minutes of this guy. I'm just kidding. Here we go.
It's the Democrat side.
Yeah, we gotta be fair. I appreciate it, Shawn. I give him a hard time because I don't like listening to them whine, but here we go.
Vice Chair.
All right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is a first.
Shut up.
And Ms. Gabbard, let me be clear, at least in my views. I salute your service to our country, but I have serious doubts about your judgment. And those are some of the areas that I want to pursue.
Okay.
First, until you are nominated by the president to be the DNI, you consistently praise the actions of Edward Snowden. Some who, I believe, jeopardized the security of our nation, and then, to flaunt that, fled to Russia.
Okay, let's pause just real briefly here, because let's talk about what Snowden actually did.
Yep.
Okay. My understanding, I don't know because I didn't read everything he released, but my understanding is the big issue with Snowden, their claim is that what he released put some people in danger. It put American assets in danger. Do you know if that's true?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay, but that's their claim.
That's their claim.
Right. Now, what I do know is that Snowden told us about the NSA having unrestricted access to everything we do, to basically spying on American citizens and foreign dignitaries through their phones. This was a shock because we trusted our intel agencies a wee bit more than that, probably foolishly, but he exposed that. Now, here's the question. Based on what you know about Snowden, right?
Yep.
Hero, traitor, or is it more complicated than that?
I would say he's a hero.
Okay. I would say it's more complicated than a single badge.
Okay. But I want to know when they're breaking the Constitution, we should know.
We should know.
We,
I
the
agree.
people, should know.
We should know. We absolutely should know. The citizens of this country should be made aware when our government is breaking the rules. The rules that we set, by the way, we the people are in charge. And our so-called government is running buck wild. I want to know about that. So I'm glad that he told us about the NSA spying and all of that. And their claim is that other information in that dump put people in danger.
I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I don't know how. I thought that's all he basically exposed.
I
But
think
I
what they're
don't-
saying is because he exposed how they were getting our information, it could lead to other people.
What?
being
Yeah. What do you
exposed.
guys think?
That's
Do you
my
guys
guess.
think that Snowden was a hero, a traitor, or is it more complicated than that? Either way, you can express. This is supposed to be America. You can
Uh-huh.
express an opinion about something, but not according to the Democrats.
No.
So that's not okay. Here we go.
You even called Edward Snowden, and I quote here, a brave whistleblower. Every member of this committee supports the rights of legal whistleblowers. But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this
Yes,
case,
he is.
I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical, serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life.
Wow. Okay.
Gabbard, a simple yes or no question.
tried.
You still think Edward?
He tried to tell Congress, and nobody would listen to him.
Really?
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. So he tried to go through the right channels.
He
at
did.
first. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
gonna see if I can find it, but this was from 2013, so this was 12 years ago. So my memory might be.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But yeah.
Yeah. See what you can find out while we listen to
Okay.
Mr. Warner here.
Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government
Excuse me,
that
Gabbard.
led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Chairman, we got 5 minutes. So I
Okay.
take your answer, and these are your quotes. Brave, please join my bipartisan legislation calling for charges to be dropped against him. Do you disagree that legislation was not appropriate? Do you believe he is brave or not?
Yeah,
Back those words?
once again, Senator, Edward Snowden broke the law. He
Ms. Gabbard,
also
I'm not
released
talking- we
information
agree that Edward Snowden
that
broke the
exposed
law.
the United States
Asking you a question
government's
whether
illegal
your
programs.
legislation and your words are still your beliefs. Yes or no, please.
I'm making myself very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Edward
Ma'am.
Snowden broke the law. He released information about the United
All right,
States
ma'am, I've
government's
got other issues to
illegal
raise. Ma'am,
activities.
I
If I may just finish my thoughts, Senator. In this role that I've been nominated for, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will be responsible for protecting our nation's secrets. And I have 4 immediate steps
ask for
that I
additional
would
time,
take to
Chairman.
prevent another Snowden-like leak.
ma'am, I would simply ask you
Mhm.
again. I don't think you're going to answer. I agree with Tom Cotton. He's a traitor. You, for years, until you got chosen by President Trump, have celebrated this guy as brave. You've called for him to be pardoned, for his charges to be dropped. I cannot imagine a director of national intelligence that would say that kind of behavior is okay. How would we maintain the trust of the IC and the contractors who work for it? How would we maintain the trust of our Five Eye partners?
Mhm.
I find it very troubling. Let me move
I'm
to
sure you do.
702. I know other members are going to raise this. Remember, the 702 is critical to our national security. 60% of the president's daily brief, 60% of the information President Trump gets every day in a PDB will come from this. You've had a long history of opposing 702. Many members of Congress have. But one of the things you actually done that not many have is not to reform it, but you actually said you wanted to repeal it. But now, whether it's confirmation conversion or whatever you call 702 vital, and
What is said? He's talking about 702. Do you know what he's talking about?
Oh, Section 702 is in the. I just lost my train of in the FISA, where the government can keep track of your phone calls, like of who you're calling, and
Okay.
let me get the exact. And how much you talk to them.
Okay. Interesting. While you look that up, I'll let him finish.
I'm quoting because of significant FISA reforms have been enacted since you left Congress. Ms. Gabbard, what are the reforms that have led you to now support 702?
In the short time that I have, Senator, I will just note that my actions in legislation in Congress were done to draw attention to the egregious civil liberties violations that were occurring at that time.
Ms. Gabbard,
Some of
Ms.
the-
Gabbard, I ask you a question. Please give me the courtesy of responding. You said the reforms now make you support it. What can you cite? Which reforms?
There are a number of reforms to include
In the new
getting
bill,
rid
in the new law, right?
that all
Right.
of you and your
Gabbard, Ms.
wisdom.
Gabbard, my time is getting short, but I got to just tell you, after
You got to love how these clowns ask questions and then don't let her answer.
Uh-huh.
the
What-
reform,
Go ahead.
All right. Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, allows the U.S. government to collect foreign intelligence information from non-U.S. people outside the U.S. And the problem with it is when that happens, it also has U.S. people's information get caught up in it as well. And who knows, they might be just lying to us like usual and still getting that information.
Right.
'Cause you
Because that's
can't-
how good.
Because you can't trust them. They've lied to us so many times.
Exactly. This is the same people. These are the same people who said, "Oh, we're not spying on Trump,"
Uh-huh.
even though they were spying on Trump, and then tried to deny it over and over and over until incontrovertible proof was shown, at which point they went, "Well, yeah, but it was all legal."
I found a Washington Post article about Snowden. He said
Okay.
he raised NSA concerns internally over 10 times before going rogue.
So it
He-
sounds like he tried to follow the process. Look, I don't know Edward Snowden.
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
know all the
don't-
stuff about him. I'm not going to try to defend or persecute the man. There are people who are already doing that. However, I think it's a lot more complicated than a simple label. And especially if accurate, if he did attempt to go through the proper channels 10 times, what else are you going to do?
Uh-huh.
Like, what else are you supposed
He
to
said
do?
what he wanted to do, why he did it, was because he wanted the American people to know about it.
Mhm.
And he wanted a debate on if they wanted the government to have that power.
Right. And what happened? The government still has the power
Uh-huh.
and he's on the run.
Yeah, he's in Russia.
Okay, let's finish up.
reforms were passed into law in April of 24. You went on Joe Rogan's podcast in May. The bill is now law. And you said, quote, this bill took an already bad problem and made it many, many times worse. Again, in my mind, this is a question of judgment. 702 is critical. I appreciate
you
this
think it
late
is.
conversion, but I'm not sure I buy it because you've had such a consistent position. Again, I know my colleague's going to raise these, but rather than standing up to dictators like Putin and Assad,
Oh boy.
you know,
Here we
you
go.
sometimes amplify his talking points. I mean, I just do not understand how you can blame NATO for Putin's brutal invasion
I can.
of Ukraine.
I absolutely can understand
Yes.
it and agree to an extent with it. I mean, anyway.
Assad used chemical weapons against his own people.
Yeah.
You didn't condemn him. I can go through all the quotes.
Hmm.
You actually questioned Americans' intelligence. Now, you mentioned a lot about trust. You know, and one of the things that I'm so proud on this committee is my friend Senator Burr said, we always follow the truth.
But you don't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But you freaking don't. These clowns sit up here, they ask these important sounding questions, cut the witnesses off before they can answer, and then nothing comes of it. Look at
Uh-huh.
Fauci, look at these other clowns that have been hauled up in front of Congress and the Senate to explain themselves. And we have yet to see any real repercussions for any of the lies, for the falsehoods, for the absolute blatant misleading they've done on both Congress and the American people.
Mhm.
There's no accountability. So this clown claiming that they follow the truth is absurd.
I say on this committee, the most valuable work I do in this, and we have a bipartisan approach to intelligence. I think we have worked to try to keep the intelligence community and earn their trust, and frankly, earn the trust of the American people.
Oh, good luck on that.
Yeah, good luck on that. Have you looked at a poll recently about the American people's opinion of Congress in general? Newsflash, homie, it ain't good.
No.
But I respectfully, ma'am, I just don't believe on your judgment and credibility issues that this is the
Whatever. I can't with this guy anymore. All right. So hold on. I'm sorry. We got a couple more seconds.
appropriate role that you should take going forward. Thank you, Mr.
You would
Chairman.
have
Senator
done a
Collins.
poster on that too.
Yeah. Anyway,
Any role.
it's not going to matter what she's nominated for. She's with Trump, so all the Democrats are going to vote against her. It's just that simple. You have people literally violating the law in withholding intelligence and withholding. They have stated publicly, resist the same crap as before. This time, they need to be brought up on charges. It's just that simple. President's in charge. If you're part of the executive branch, you need to listen or you need to pack your bags. It's
Fair
that
point.
simple. All right. So we're going on to, we're going right into Senator Collins from Maine,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Senator Collins. Does she have a condition? Because I notice her, sometimes she shakes a little bit,
I don't remember what she has though.
but she
I
does
don't-
have some kind of,
I believe she does.
yeah. I had noticed it before. I was just curious. It's easier to look up something like that than it is to, because who was it? Some guy was making fun of RFK Jr. for the way that he talks.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and people are like, "Really, dude?
Yeah, it's a
Of
health
all-
condition. I think
Yeah.
it's cancer.
Yeah, he like beat cancer." Okay. Anyway, 5847 to 10241. Senator Collins. In the meantime, he'll find out exactly what
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
she has.
Ms. Gabbard, Edward Snowden does stand out as having done particularly grave harm to our national security by revealing top secret information, including sensitive sources and methods, thus jeopardizing agents in the field. So let me ask you a question. If confirmed, would you support or recommend a pardon or any kind of clemency for Edward Snowden?
Thank you for the question, Senator Collins. If confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, my responsibility would be to ensure the security of our nation's secrets and would not take actions to advocate for any actions related to Snowden.
That would
the
be her
answer
job
is
to do
no.
so.
Right.
Is that
Correct.
correct?
Right. She wouldn't advocate
In
for anything. That's what
2020,
she's saying.
you introduced the Protect Brave Whistleblowers Act, which would amend the Espionage Act to make it more difficult to prosecute individuals who reveal classified information. In particular, the bill would allow individuals to disclose even top secret information as long as it's not done with the specific intent to injure the United States or advantage any foreign nation. Your bill would also have created an affirmative defense if public disclosure of classified information were made for several reasons, one of which was to expose gross waste of funds. I strongly oppose this legislation, which would hamper our ability to prosecute people who give our adversaries classified information.
Didn't it specifically say that if that was part of it, then they could be prosecuted? Like, I'm just saying, didn't
I
she
don't
just
know.
say that the bill was to make it harder to prosecute so-called whistleblowers, right? People who revealed intelligence, if they weren't doing it to hurt the United States or to help a foreign government. Just saying, like, I do believe we need more robust whistleblower protection because our whistleblowers, they've been killing them. Just saying.
Boeing.
Yeah, Boeing and some others that have been supposed to speak in front of Congress have, let's just say, had a really, really bad final day.
So let me ask you this, Ms. Gabbard, do you still support providing individuals who have access to top secret information with the ability to make their own decisions regarding whether that information should be publicly disclosed, even though disclosure may cause tremendous harm to our country or our allies?
Senator, we cannot and should not have individual vigilantes within the intelligence community making their own decisions about how and where and when to expose our nation's secrets. The intent of the legislation that you have pointed out was pointed towards ensuring due process for those who are charged under the Espionage Act in a court of law. This is a law that has been abused in some cases and used for political purposes.
Yep.
President Obama charged more people under the Espionage Act than all other presidents combined.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's keep in mind what was going on at the time that she was considering this bill.
They're saying that, if you want to go back to Susan Collins for a second,
Yeah.
spasmodic dystophia, it's like a voice condition
Yeah.
where
It's not that dissimilar from the way RFK Jr. sounds. That's all I'm saying.
and they think that her shaking is just because she's getting older.
Oh, that could be. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
If confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence,
I'm a nosy bastard.
my sole
No, you're
focus
fine.
and goal would be our nation's security, which includes ensuring the security of our nation's secrets. And I would work to make sure that we don't have any disclosures or vigilantes taking it upon themselves. There are numerous legal paths that will protect this information for those who feel they have concerns. And I look forward to working with you and this committee on making sure that those protections are
Okay.
known by every single person in the workforce and effectively implemented.
So you
Okay. So basically, she's saying my job's to follow the law. I'm not about to do any of that. And at the same time, I hope to offer a little bit more clarity to people on how to properly whistleblow.
Which is good.
It is good. That's what we need. All right. So we're going to move on to Senator Wyden from Oregon. If this is who I think it is. All right.
is.
So 10509.
You had it last time.
All right. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. So Senator Wyden from Oregon. So you already know, dude. He's from Oregon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So about 2 minutes. 10509 to 10648. Here we go.
thank you.
Senator Wyden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Ms. Gabbard.
Thank you.
I am going to try to get 4 questions in, so I'll be brief, and if you can reciprocate, that would be very much appreciated. We've been talking about Section 702, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and I believe it's critical that the DNI support additional reforms to protect the privacy of law-abiding Americans. In your written response to committee questions, you wrote, and I quote, "Warrants should generally be required before an agency undertakes a U.S. person query of Section 702. Is this your current position?"
Yes, it is, Senator. And as you'll note in that written response, I noted some exigent circumstances
I
with
agree with
which
that.
there may be other options. But I also want to make a note that a simple warrant requirement is ultimately going to be a policy decision that all of you will make. I would point to history, to some examples.
Time is short. I'm glad you answered in line with your written answer that you support a warrant. Section 702 also involves a huge loophole now that was included recently that could allow the government to force anyone with access to a Wi-Fi router or cable box to secretly participate in the warrantless surveillance program. Do you support, as I do, eliminating this language?
Senator, I would have to look more into that and assess, if confirmed, what the impacts of the implementation of the existing safeguards are and come back to you in Congress as you look at reauthorization.
It is a massive loophole, and I hope to hear after you've looked at it that you'll be supportive of my efforts. Let me turn now to the question of the Inspector General situation.
I'm not a fan of this guy at all. I think he's a moron. However, I mean, he looks like the crypt keeper, dude. But that aside, I am all for limiting the government's ability to spy on its people. Period. End of story. Get rid of that.
And the President of the United States refused to fund the Inspector General for the intelligence community despite appropriations from Congress. And here I'd like a yes or no.
What?
Senator, I don't know about the legal authorities, but I understand the essential role that the inspectors general play. And if confirmed, look forward to empowering our inspector general to fulfill their responsibility.
I think it went past the time.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good job. Yeah. Good. Because I didn't want to listen to him anymore. I got into that zone of just, I was talking. Okay.
Just went, let you know.
Okay. I appreciate it. All right, guys. We're going to jump ahead then
Heinrich.
to 1:15:31. Whoops. That's okay. I hit the wrong button. Apparently, if you hit 0, it goes back to the beginning. Okay. 1:15:31 to 1:20:36. This is Senator Heinrich from New Mexico.
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome. You traveled to Syria and Lebanon in January 2017. Bassam Kawam personally paid for that trip, and Bassam and his brother Ilyas accompanied you to both Lebanon and Syria. The Kawam brothers have links to the Syrian Social Nationalist Party, an ally of Hezbollah. And in fact, in 2008, the Syrian Social Nationalist Party participated in the assassination of a...
Wait, this guy's a Democrat?
Yep.
You had Republican.
Did I?
From New Mexico. Yeah. Come on, Shawn. What the heck? Dude, you got in a hurry. That's what happened.
Uh-huh.
It's all right, guys. Obviously, you can look at this guy and tell. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he's a Democrat.
He's a Democrat from New Mexico. Here we go.
A former Lebanese prime minister and assisted Hezbollah in Beirut. When did you become aware of the links between the Kawam brothers and the Syrian Social Nationalist Party?
Senator, thank you for your question. Just a point of clarification. I paid for my own expenses and travel on that trip. I was not aware of any accusations of these two Lebanese Americans associations until after the trip occurred.
And that's when you reimbursed?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
Because
Not because of, I wanted to make sure that there were no perceived conflicts of interest. I addressed this specific question to these Lebanese Americans who had organized the trip, and they vehemently denied any associations with that group.
There is not a great deal in the public record about what you and Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad discussed for so long in January of 2017. And I think there's a great deal of interest from the American people about what was discussed in that meeting. So what did you talk about? And did you press Assad on things like his use of chemical weapons, systematic torture, and the killing of so many Syrians?
Yes, Senator. I upon returning from this trip, I met with people like then Leader Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer, talked to them and answered their questions about the trip. And quite frankly, I was surprised that there was no one from the intelligence community or the State Department who reached out or showed any interest whatsoever in my takeaways from that trip. I was very happy to have a conversation and give them a back brief.
So no one reached out to her
from the State Department or
That's concerning. Like that's more than just an intelligence failure. I mean, that's like a systemic failure because no one else had gotten like that close to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah,
you would think it would be a massive intel win. Okay.
I went with former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, who had been there many times before and who had met with Assad before. A number of topics were covered and discussed. And to directly answer your question, yes, I asked him tough questions about his own regime's actions, the use of chemical weapons and the brutal tactics that were being used against his own people.
Were you able to extract any concessions from President Assad?
No, and I didn't expect to, but I felt these issues were important to address.
She had no leverage. How was she gonna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
It was
let's-
just like just to talk,
I mean, it was a talk. Yeah. I mean,
fact finding. Yeah.
right.
According to your revised trip report, your third meeting in Syria after meeting with Assad and then his wife was with Grand Mufti Ahmad Badreddin Hassoun. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. In an October 2011 speech, the Grand Mufti warned the U.S. and Europe that we will prepare suicide bombers who are already in your countries if you bomb Syria or Lebanon. What was the goal, or what did you accomplish by meeting with Grand Mufti?
As Senator, before going on the trip and during my time both in Syria and Lebanon, I made it a point to meet with different religious leaders, both Muslim leaders as well as various Christian and Catholic leaders who were there in the region. I did that both in Syria and in Lebanon to hear from them about what their concerns or thoughts were with regard to the war that was being waged at the time.
Were you aware of his threats regarding suicide bombers in the United States?
I was not and had not heard that until today.
Who vetted the people that you met with on this trip to Syria and Lebanon?
The itinerary was created by former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, his constituents who he had traveled with to Syria and Lebanon a number of times before. Some of the individuals that I met with were looked at prior to the trip. Others came up during the trip that were unexpected.
Just in complete hindsight, would you view this trip as good judgment?
Yes, Senator. And I believe that leaders, whether you be in Congress or the President of the United States, can benefit greatly by going and engaging, boots on the ground, learning and listening and meeting directly with people, whether they be adversaries or friends.
Last question. Who do you blame? Who's responsible for the war in Ukraine?
What?
Putin started the war in Ukraine.
Thank you.
She's not wrong. He did. But
He did. I mean, there's no point in even saying anything else. And that's, I'm glad she just said that and left it at that. There's no point in talking sense to these people at all. So, all right, we're going to move on. So let's see here. 1:20:59.
Like 23 seconds after.
Yeah.
For Moran from Kansas.
Okay. So. Okay. Senator Moran from Kansas, 1:20:59 to, I think it's 1:23:14.
Yep. I appreciate you saying this in this setting just now. Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard, you were asked in your questionnaire about your priorities, and you listed Iran and Hamas and Hezbollah and North Korea. You also mentioned Russia, but the only thing you said about Russia in fully explaining why it's a priority is ending the war with Russia. When you talk about Russia, what are your fears or policy priorities beyond ending the war? How do you see Russia as a threat to the United States?
Senator, if confirmed as the Director of National Intelligence, it will be paramount for me to assess where our intelligence gaps may exist so that I can provide the President and all of you with the most accurate full picture of that threat assessment to directly answer your questions. I think that it is a complex environment. Russia remains a strategic competitor. There are a number of concerns that have to do with their nuclear weapons, as well as how the decisions and policies that are being made by this body and by the President will impact our own national security, which is my foremost concern.
I want to make certain that in no way does Russia get a pass in either your mind or your heart or in any policy recommendation you would make or not make?
Senator, I'm offended by the question because my sole focus, commitment, and responsibility is about our own nation, our own security, and the interests of the American people. In carrying out the responsibilities of the Director of National Intelligence, if confirmed, no country, group, or individual will get a pass. In my fulfilling that responsibility of providing that full intelligence picture so that you all can make the best informed policy decisions for the safety, security, and freedom of the American people. You have my commitment to be completely objective, unbiased, and apolitical, and I hope you understand my commitment to our country's interest.
I believe her.
Oh, yeah.
I believe her. Okay. So the next clip is Senator King, independent from Maine. Oh,
Allegedly.
oh,
He
this
called
is
himself-
that. Yeah. This is the guy who was a Democrat and still is a
He's-
Democrat, but claims he's independent.
Uh-huh.
That guy. Yeah. He caucuses with the Dems still,
Yes, he
doesn't
does.
he?
Yes,
That's
he
what I
does.
thought. All right. So 126.59 to 128.29.
Jobs. And I want to thank you for that.
Angus.
I noted.
Oh, this is a different guy than I thought it was. I was thinking of somebody else. I don't know this guy. I think I was thinking of the Stephen King guy, who's that guy's a Democrat, isn't he?
Are you talking about the author?
No,
Oh,
not
you're talking
the
about-
author. I'm talking about that's
he was in Iowa. He was a congressman from
Yeah,
Iowa. But
yeah.
He was a Republican.
he was a Republican. Okay, I'm thinking of somebody else then. But
You're thinking of
it's
somebody
fine.
else.
But this guy does caucus with the Dems, right?
He does.
Yeah.
That Edward Snowden was in Hawaii, of all places, for a year and a half
Oh boy.
before he fled to Hong Kong and then on to Russia. Did you ever meet him or have any contact with him during that period or subsequently with telephone calls, emails, Zooms, contact with he or his lawyers?
No, Senator, not at any time have I had contact with Edward Snowden.
And you introduced a bill in 2020 that was essentially a pardon. It basically said all charges should be dropped. You had a lot of whereases in that bill. Where did the factual basis for those whereas clauses come from?
Senator, if I recall, in that bill, it came from publicly available information.
I see. And were you aware that there was a bipartisan committee report from the House Intelligence Committee in 2016 on Snowden's activities?
I don't recall specifically at that time, but I am aware of that committee's report and executive summary that was reported publicly. I did not have access to the classified report that summary was based on.
Did you read that report prior to filing your bill in 2020?
Senator, I don't recall specifically. I remember reading a lot of materials prior to filing that bill.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, how is she supposed to remember if she read one specific document? Anyway, I mean, I guess I understand what he's trying to go for, but anyway.
Yep,
All
Rick
right.
Bennett.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh boy. All right. So we got Senator Bennett from Colorado. Whoo boy. All right. 138.28 to 144.
And Steve Keen that you were talking
16.
about from Iowa was a Republican.
He was a Republican. Okay. All right. I guess I'm thinking of somebody else. Anyway, 138.28. And we're going to 144.16. And then we only have one more clip after this. We're almost done, guys. Hang in there.
And do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority of members of our intelligence agencies believe, that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, if confirmed
This
as
is when the
Director of
rubber hits
National
the road.
Intelligence,
This is
I
when
will
this is
work
not
with you to make sure
this
that
is
there is
not
not
a
another
moment for
Snowden
social
likely.
media. It's not a moment to propagate theories,
You won't even let her
conspiracy
speak.
theories,
Of course not.
or attacks on journalism in the United States. This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for.
She doesn't need your vote, dipshit. That's why they're not bothering, because you're not. Here's the thing. Even if they were the most qualified person ever with the greatest, dude, Tulsi Gabbard of all people. Like, come on, man. All these Democrats are going to vote against her anyway. So why should she care what you have to say? But,
To be confirmed.
And they never let her answer. Like you
No.
said, they're not going to let her answer. They're just going to prattle on. And this guy of all people talking about, this is not a clip for social media. Oh, come on, guy.
Really,
As the
Bennett?
Right.
Chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has
Your
served
answer,
in
yes
uniform,
or no, is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
You know, I'll just say this. And there are plenty of people, I'm sure, that will say she just needs to answer the question. They started this shit. I just want to say, I remember hearings from many years ago. They were a lot more straightforward. Like they would ask a question, the nominee would answer, and life would go on. There were a few that got kind of contentious, but for the most part, it was a very straightforward process. Then with Obama, then some other nominees, they just prattle on. So you know what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, homie. You want some of that? Here you go. Have some schnazzy. There you go.
as someone who has
I'll go on
worn
to
our
my
uniform
questions.
in
This
combat,
time-
I understand how critical our
Mhm.
national security
Apparently
is.
you don't. Apparently you don't. Let me ask you, I've worked very hard to put your own words here in front of the committee.
Did this guy
Not-
ever serve?
You know, fake news, not
No, I don't think he
conspiracy
has.
theories on the
I'll
internet,
double
but
check.
the actual
Oh.
things that you have
That's what I wanted to say before. So he's talking about how there's this hate for the media, for, journalists. No, there's no hate for real journalists. There's hate for fake news and the propaganda that the American people are being fed by these so-called media companies. As you guys are well aware, you saw the election results. The American people are tired of this crap.
said on
No, he
February
hasn't.
I
23rd,
didn't think so.
2022, at the very moment that Russian tanks were rolling across
Here
the
we go.
peaceful border of Ukraine
Yeah.
for the first time, you tweeted at 11:30 p.m. your time.
Mhm.
This war and suffering could have easily been avoided if Biden administration / NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine's becoming a member of NATO. Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet, Senator.
Yes
Yeah.
is the answer. A few months later, you
What's so
said
bad
on your
about saying that?
podcast, and I quoted it,
Right.
quote, but this regime change war against Russia that the U.S. and NATO
Yeah.
are waging via their proxy in Ukraine didn't begin when Putin invaded Ukraine. They had their eyes set on this objective long before that. Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet.
Thank
There's
you.
a lot.
You're reading my tweet, dipshit. Of course I said it. And she's not wrong. That's
Yeah.
the thing. These people like to believe everything's black and white, but it's not.
It's gray.
It's so many shades of gray. And realistically, we talked about this before. NATO courting Ukraine, they're going to be right on the doorstep of Russia. Of course, Russia's concerned. The Warsaw Pact doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's defunct. It's gone. That was the counter to NATO. Nothing exists like that anymore. Russia stands alone. Sure. They've got Turkey, maybe, and a couple other, Iran, Syria before Assad was yeeted out of there, right? They have allies, probably China, maybe, but the Warsaw Pact that was like all those countries, Poland, Kazakhstan, like I could name them, but we know the Baltic states, Eastern Europe was all part of the Warsaw Pact. That's not a thing anymore. And half or more of those countries are now part of NATO. Of course, Russia's concerned. I'm not justifying it by any stretch of the imagination, but Tulsi makes good points.
The answer is yes.
You're quoting a podcast that provided
I'm happy
much
to have
more
a conversation with the chairman about
Exactly.
whether I'm taking
That's
anything
it,
out
yep.
of context. I don't think I am. And your answer is yes. Are you
That's not her
aware
answer, by
that
the way.
your comments about proxy wars and Russia's legitimate security concerns, to quote your own words, are in alignment with what the Russians have said to justify their invasion of Ukraine? Yes or
Senator,
no?
I don't pay attention to Russian
So I'll
propaganda.
take
My
that as
goal
the-
is to
I'll
speak
take
the
that as
truth,
the answer is no.
regardless of whether
Thank
you
you.
like it or not.
I'll take it. That's fine. You said you
Yeah.
are used to speaking truth to power.
Yes.
I'm shocked to hear you now say that, you are.
That's what it is. Look at him. He's apoplectic. I love that word, by the way. I'd use it whenever I can.
Are agreeing. I'm not shocked because I know you said it. You are agreeing.
You act
that
like
you
you're shocked.
basically said-
Right. And look at the power of the glasses removal. Girl.
Yeah.
Stop and do a Slim Jim.
Putin was justified in rolling over the peaceful border of Ukraine, the first time since World War II that a free nation had been invaded
Free
by
nation.
a totalitarian state, and you were there.
Invaded by a totalitarian state. By the way, that Russia hasn't canceled their elections.
True.
Ukraine did.
Even though
I'm just
Russia's
saying.
elections are,
Let's be honest.
eh,
Their elections are not exactly, a shining beacon to the world.
yeah, but at least they
But
had elections.
At least they had them. Ukraine, their elections have been paused indefinitely, just like, Canada.
There at 11:30 p.m. that night to say that you were with them, not us. And let me tell you something.
That's not what she
You
said.
don't know because you don't read Russian propaganda. Russian state TV then aired your comments. Did you know that?
Senator, I think you should also quote the statement that I made criticizing Putin for his invasion
What
of
I would
Ukraine.
say, Mr. Chairman, with the last, it's up to all of us. We're the Senate. We get to decide whether we're going to confirm this nominee. Obviously, we didn't select this nominee. But can't we do better than somebody who doesn't believe in 702? Can't we believe that somebody who can't answer whether Snowden was a traitor 5 times today, who made excuses for Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the first time that I'm aware of any American official has done that? I'm questioning her judgment. That's the issue that's at stake here. And as you said, and I totally agree, this is about our intelligence officers. And you cannot answer. Most of what we do here is in secret. This is one of the very few opportunities that you will ever have to have a conversation with this panel in public. And the record is going to be very clear about the position you took with regard to Edward Snowden. And the record is going to be very clear about your reaffirmation of the statements you made in the middle of the night when Russia was invading the free country of Ukraine. And I hope we will take that in
He is
consideration.
angry.
Shut up. Sit down and shut up. Oh my God, dude. This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you guys, by the way, don't know what apoplectic means, by all means, look it up. It is absolutely what he became.
Did you say Trump derangement syndrome?
Right. TDS
It's
on
real.
full display. Oh my goodness. All right. So our last little clip, guys, and Thomas Paine and friends said, thank you for watching the hearings and breaking this down. You're welcome.
You're welcome. We're going to do Cash Patel Saturday.
I'm really looking forward to Cash Patel. So FYI, guys, tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'm going to have a party this weekend, but we're going to make sure to record a video beforehand and have it go live Saturday night while I'm busy at my birthday party.
And I'm there too.
Yeah. Shawn will be there as well. So we're going to give you guys some, if you've been invited, you're welcome to come. If you haven't, no, I'm just I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking. No, if you'd really like to come, by all means, I think we got a couple of spots left. It's a certain number that we can have because we're going somewhere cool. So, all right, guys. The last little clip is from our senator here in our great state of Indiana, Todd Young.
And I added this at the end because he actually created a controversy that he wasn't going to support it, and now he is going to.
Yeah, interestingly enough. So the rumors, it wasn't even rumors. Didn't he say he wasn't going to confirm?
No, it was
her?
just rumors.
It was just rumors.
But
Okay.
it was pretty certain.
Yeah, allegedly, he said no, he's not going to support her. Then he had a talk with, of all people, Elon Musk.
Uh-huh.
Elon reported on X, yeah, Todd's going to vote yes, or something like that. It was. I can look it up. You guys look it up. But yeah, it's interesting. Now I do know. I don't know how many, but I do know a group of patriots has called his office. They even gave me the assistant's name.
Did they?
Yeah. They were like, call and talk to her. Yeah, she's keeping a list and she'll present it to the senator. So yeah, I know a number of people called, which good. That's what you need to do. Get off your ass, pick up the phone, call your senator or your congressman and tell them what you want. That's their job.
Uh-huh. They work for us.
They work for us. And not too many of them anymore seem to believe or understand that. But I think Trump's going to start breaking that down for them.
I hope
in
so.
very clear language. I hope so too. So 156.03 to 201.55. Senator Young, Rhino from Indiana. I mean, Republican from Indiana. Yeah, same thing.
Tulsi, good to see you. We had a nice visit in the office.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. It was clear from that visit in the office that we share a lot of concerns about ill-advised foreign regime change interventions, about the weaponization in certain instances of our domestic law enforcement.
He's growing a beard.
Uh-huh.
Interesting. He's always been clean shaven that I've
noticed
seen
that
him.
too. Yeah.
Interesting. Wonder if
That's
he's going
brand
for a
new.
new rugged look.
That's a
JD
brand new
Vance.
year look.
Brand new what?
Brand new year.
Yeah, brand new year, brand new look.
Yeah.
Brand
I
new
had never seen
president.
him with a beard either.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going for a VP look. You know, the
Maybe.
the Vance look. I don't think it would look good on him. What
I
do you
really
think?
hope he doesn't. No offense.
No, I mean, you know,
No, I don't want him to be VP.
as
I'm
long
just
as his
saying.
wife. No, I meant rock the VP beard,
Oh.
like
Okay. Yeah, I don't care what he.
right what he wears.
I thought you meant.
Oh, him as
Never
VP.
That's what I said.
Sorry, Senator Young. Far as I'm concerned, that's the highest office you will ever hold. And honestly, I hope you're replaced next election.
My guess is that Elon said that we're gonna have a campaign opponent. For
That's
the
what I
primary.
think. Yeah. If you don't vote for this, we're gonna make sure that you face stiff opposite. And imagine, dude, anybody who gets Trump's endorsement going against Young is a shoo-in, in my opinion. In the
As long as it's
Republican
not
primary, oh, bruh, the Republican primary will be a bloodbath. Like, yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stared him
Yeah.
straight.
In intel authorities. Let me talk about something, Edward Snowden, on which we may not agree.
Oh boy.
It's been recognized he fled overseas with the numbers 1.5 million classified documents. He shared them with the press. He absconded to China and Russia. Do you have any response to the bipartisan findings of the House Intel Committee, which stated that, quote, Snowden caused tremendous damage to national security, unquote, including to military, defense, and intelligence programs of great interest to America's adversaries? I'll give you an opportunity to respond, hopefully briefly.
Thank you, Senator. As I've said before, Edward Snowden broke the law, and I do not agree with how he chose to release information and the extent of the information and intelligence that he released. It's my focus
key right
on the
there.
future. And I think we can all agree that we do not want to have another Snowden type leak. And I've laid out
Agreed.
specific actions, if confirmed as DNI, to do that.
Okay.
One of the biggest, concerns for me, at least, about that type of leak is it shouldn't happen again, because they should have fixed it. They didn't, but they should have fixed what they were illegally doing. But let's be honest here. We know. And I'll say this. I am not angry at Tulsi for not loving 702, right? It's basically warrantless surveillance.
It is.
I mean, that's why we have a constitution.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, she should be against it. Good for her.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's notable you didn't say, yes, he clearly hurt in various ways our national security. The same House committee also reported that based on DOD assessments, should the Chinese or Russians access certain documents relating to DOD capabilities that we know Snowden stole, quote, American troops will be at greater risk in any future conflict, unquote. Do you have any reflection on this assessment?
I would be very concerned about that. I have not had access to the information or intelligence that led to that assessment, but anything that puts our men and women in uniform unnecessarily at risk should be a grave concern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect answer. Again, she doesn't have access to the intel that he released.
No.
I mean, she can see some of it, what the press, put out there. Sure. But they didn't put all of it out there. Like they said, what was it, like 1 million documents? That's a lot. That's a lot.
I share that sentiment as a former Marine Corps intelligence officer.
Yeah, we can't have a speech go by without Senator Young talking about the time he was in the Marines. Just saying.
I know.
When we find that Americans, whether private citizens or
He likes to remind
contractors or uniformed
yeah.
personnel, have shared sensitive designs about military technology or plans to a foreign government, however well-intentioned, we rightfully throw the book at them. Snowden did just that. Yet you have argued and many times that he should be pardoned. You introduced legislation, as has been discussed here. He's been able to publicly hide, as I see it, behind this facade of being a so-called whistleblower. But he likely endangered American lives through his actions. So as the leader of the intelligence community, how would you think you would be received based on some of these past actions to support or even to pardon Edward Snowden? Rank and file intelligence analysts and intelligence.
You gonna let her answer?
How do you think it'll be received?
I'm grateful, Senator, to have received letters of endorsement and support from many current and former individuals who've worked within the intelligence community, those who've worked or are still working within our military, because I believe they trust that my goal, my sole goal and interest is in our nation's security and upholding our oath to the Constitution. And they trust that if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will take the very specific steps that I have laid out in informing every single person within the intelligence community about the legal pathways they have to blow the whistle or to bring any concerns to the forefront, to include.
Which I think is the way to go. I really do. There are methods that are set up, but like she said before and was 100% accurate, Obama was notorious for going after whistleblowers and prosecuting them, even though they were fully within the law, fully within their particular agency's set of guidelines. They would follow them and still run afoul and find themselves up on charges. I like what Tulsi's saying about making sure that there's a proper way. Proper procedures. Exactly.
Coming directly to members of Congress to limit the legal pathways they have to blow the whistle or to bring any concerns to the forefront, to include coming directly to members of Congress, to limit access so that we don't have people who are E3s or E4s or people in any situation taking it upon themselves to release classified information, giving them a direct line to me to once again make sure that we are all fulfilling our responsibility to
Tulsi,
ensure
was-
our national
yes.
security and uphold our Constitution.
Thank you. Tulsi, was Edward Snowden false to an obligation or false to a duty?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Right.
False?
He had, yes. Did he
What?
betray a duty? But did he betray the trust of the American people? Which is, according to Merriam-Webster, that's the definition of a traitor.
Edward Snowden broke the law, and he released this information in a way that he should not have. He also acknowledged and exposed information that was unconstitutional, which drove a lot of the reforms that this body has made over the years to make sure that Americans' constitutional rights are protected.
For what it's worth, Mr. Snowden is watching these proceedings. He's posted on social media even, indicating that Tulsi Gabbard should indicate that I harmed national security. This may be the rare instance in which I agree with Mr. Snowden. I think it would befit you and be helpful to the way you are perceived by members of the intelligence community if you would at least acknowledge that the greatest whistleblower in American history, so-called, harmed national security by breaking the laws of the land around our intel authorities. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all the clips, guys. Let's talk briefly, just kind of wrap up about Snowden. So allegedly, according to good old Senator Young, Snowden himself posted that Tulsi Gabbard should basically throw him under the bus. I have not seen that post that he's referring to, but dude, I respect the hell out of Tulsi, because it would be so easy for her to get up in front of that committee and go, based on everything I've learned from then until now, yeah, I changed my opinion. Absolutely danger to national security, traitor, whatever you want me to say, right? But she didn't. She sticks by her guns. She's saying what she thinks. And the reality is that both can be true. He can have harmed national security while still telling us about unconstitutional crap our government was up to. I mean, right?
That's not what he said.
Oh, Shawn's going to the source. What did he say?
He is not telling the truth on that. He said that a U.S. court massive surveillance program exposed by Snowden was illegal. He never said.
He never tweeted that she should throw him under the bus. Or whatever. He said posted. I have no idea. But it would not surprise me that he's incorrect. Let's just say that. All right, guys. Look, we thank you so much for spending your time with us. I dig this, man. I think it's a good time. And I think we should all learn more and watch more and be more involved in our government. I am just as guilty. Before Donald Trump's first term, I didn't care what these jackoffs in Washington did at all. As far as I was concerned, they were removed from me, and sure, I'll vote, but it doesn't matter anyway. Donald Trump's first term restored some degree of hope.
Interesting.
For me, because I'll tell you what a big part of it was for me was the fact that Trump communicated directly with the American people. He tweeted.
Does.
Now
he still does.
Yeah, he still does. We can agree and disagree about the content of said communication, right?
He's getting better at that.
He is. I wonder if Dan Scavino took his phone.
I don't know. But I mean, even in public, his statements are much better.
Yeah, much more tame, right?
Yeah.
Than they used to be. Maybe he did learn. I hope so. But ultimately, we have a commander-in-chief now that I think gives no F's at all. He's all out of them.
Uh-huh.
Like couldn't afford them even if they were financed.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. Like, I'm excited, man. Like, and just to kind of wrap up, and I think we should do a show on it at some point, right?
On what?
Doge.
Oh, on Doge. Okay.
And
there's a whole committee.
Yeah. And how so really briefly. So Elon tweeted, apparently these psychos on the left are doxing the people who work for Doge.
They are.
Trying to basically incite violence against them.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I've
talking
heard
about
that.
how their address, it'd be a shame if somebody paid them a visit. And, oh, yeah.
I've heard they didn't say that. I didn't hear that part. I just heard that they were trying to expose them and they were making fun of them because they were all still teenagers. A lot of his people.
Yeah, they're young, right?
They're very young.
They're very young, but they are very, very smart. If you look at the CV for some of these people, they've talked about how, excuse me, darn hiccups. Let's see here. Let's see if we can find the one thing that I wanted to talk about. Okay, it's way back. I thought I'd be able to find it really quick.
But when they
anyway,
start having hearings for the House Committee for Doge, I'll do the hearing for that one too.
Absolutely. I think I would love to basically get into all these ridiculous programs and the sheer volume of money that is being wasted on condoms for Hamas, dude.
Yeah.
What? Like, the government doesn't buy my condoms.
No.
What the fuck?
Wait a minute. Anyway, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the chair of that committee. So.
Oh God, of course she is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's the chair of Doge committee
for the House. Yes.
I didn't know that. Oh my God,
That's why I was like, I don't know.
The content is going to be gold. We have content for months now. Thank you.
So yeah, just so you know.
Yeah, just so you know, the infamous
Marjorie.
MTG is in his house.
Yeah.
Oh my God. She's a trip, dude.
Sometimes she's all right, but then other times you're like, really?
Other times it's like, what did she say? All right. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Kash Patel hearing that we're going to do Saturday, right? And then based on Shawn's schedule, we will be doing more as we can. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm doing in my personal life, trying to do shows for you guys. And obviously, Shawn works a full-time job. So, and he has little ones, not of his own.
No.
But close family that he really loves and takes care of. And so, as I've said before, family first. And I mean that. So as he gets time, we will do more of these. In the meantime, I will hop on and just say random stupid stuff for you. There you go.
You don't say anything stupid.
All right, guys. I appreciate you spending your time with us. We'll talk to you again really soon. As always, God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. Hope you have a wonderful evening. See you on the flip side.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.